So episode 6 of season 1 is the season finale. The first season is like really really short.
It is.
And so at this point they're in the CDC with, as we like to call, Bruce Jenner, and he's kind of telling him like what he knows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find this character really objectionable, and I don't think it's intentional. I think maybe, I don't know. I think it's partly the actor and partly overly melodramatic writing for the character, but he is just disgusting and really, no. He's just upsetting to watch and listen to, and I just can't say enough bad things about Bruce Jenner here.
And I think we're supposed to feel bad for him.
I think
because
so,
he's
yeah.
like, I just worked here. My wife was the Einstein, like, and she gave it all up, and blah 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 blah, and like, poor me, poor me. And I think we're supposed to feel bad for him. We're supposed to have a connection of like, he's lost everything. He's been trapped in here. Oh, okay. One thing that like kind of grinds my gears is when Rick is like, you don't know what it's like out there.
That's
and
a good
it's
point.
like, you don't know what it's like out there. You've been out there for like maybe a week at this point, but you missed the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however long you were in your coma.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. And he's like, oh, no, it's so terrible out there, and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, they were completely safe at their camp at the quarry for weeks until they suffered one attack, which wasn't really even that bad.
Right.
You know,
compared to like what's gonna come,
right.
like we know, like
right. There was like maybe 20 walkers or something that actually got up there and attacked them.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and, you know, other than the characters who had to go into Atlanta to scavenge for supplies, there wasn't really that much. It could, like, compared to what will happen, there wasn't that much. I think Rick is laying it on a little thick, and he wasn't really there for most of it.
Yeah.
He was,
He had like a couple of bad days, and like those were bad, but
sure.
Don't act all like righteous and mighty.
And so they go to the CDC, and the first thing they do is get really drunk. And then actually, I guess they bathe before they get drunk. Or do they eat before they? Okay.
Yeah, I think they eat and then.
Okay.
And then,
no, you're right.
Right, and then Bruce Jenner is like, go easy on, or he's like, oh, you can go play games, but don't plug them in, blah 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 blah. And then like go easy on the hot water. And they're all like
hot water,
and everything else he said just goes out their ears.
They completely forget / ignore what he said about like taking it easy because then they all like are just like lounging in the showers,
like,
and
Andrea's
like
literally just like
she's
sitting
just like
there.
sitting there like you know like all traumatized and she's you know
it's like good water conservation guys, fantastic. And like if they knew that. At that point, like, if they knew at that point that, like, the CDC was going to explode in a day, and so they were like, oh, we'll just use all the water we have, that would be one thing, but they don't know that. So, like, I think at this point in their minds, they're thinking that they're going to stay here a while, that Bruce Jenner's going to figure stuff out. This is going to be their new
they think they're
basically.
safe. They think they're going to stay there forever. I mean, for the foreseeable future.
Right. So it's like, they're going to use all their water on this first night.
Yeah. So I hate Dale. I think he's a terrible, terrible human being. Although I think the show really, really wants me to like him and think that he's this wise old guy who is just like so pure of heart, you know? But I think something about him really bothers me. And I mean, in this episode, he's not the best. Like, I think he gets worse as time goes on.
But part of that could also be because of like how much they changed this character for the show compared to the comic.
Yeah, because in the comic series, he was like, let's see, he was an old guy and vaguely similar, but like this actor kind of like does his own thing with the character. and he's supposed, like, the comic version wasn't supposed to be, there wasn't so much emphasis on, like, him being, like, wise and compassionate.
Right, and trying to be, like, a father figure.
Yeah, because in the comic it was, like, Andrea and Amy, well, like, they were, like, roughly the same age. They were more, like, 20s or, you know, like, mid-20s or whatever, like, whatever Amy was supposed to be on the show.
Instead of, like, aren't Andrea and Amy in the show, like, 7 years apart or something
Oh, is
like
that what, did they say? Okay. I mean, that's certainly possible.
So, but I could be mistaken.
No, that's probably because, I mean, just going by appearances, I would guess that, like, Amy is, like, 25-ish, and Andrea is, like, 37 or something. Maybe maybe Andrea is not supposed to be that old. I don't know. But just going by appearances, I'd say she's, like, late 30s. So, I mean, somewhere in there is probably the correct age difference. And so they were, like, both living with Dale in his RV, and all the other people in the camp are like, "Oh, Dale, oh my, you're like, you know, you're banging these two young girls, right?" And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. But then after Amy dies, he does start banging Andrea.
And then this is in the comic, not
yeah. Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
No, that's okay. Yeah, and so that's quite a bit different. But then in the TV show, it's supposed to be more of like a father-daughter thing.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Although Andrea doesn't doesn't appreciate that he's being, like, so paternal.
Mm-hmm. Well, even later on, she's even like, I'm not your wife, I'm not your daughter, like, you don't have to take care of me. Because in, like, the end of this episode, at the end of this season, like, Andrea wanted to stay and be exploded and like die, and Dale was like, okay, if you're gonna stay, then I'm gonna stay, and pretty much guilts her and he thinks that he's being, like, heroic and fatherly and taking care of her, but, like, that's not what she wanted at all.
And so I just also, I mean, this is a very minor point, but after they all get drunk, so Shane, after they get drunk and shower, then, like, Shane goes into Laurie's room, and he's like, I know you love me, Laurie. Like, I'll make you love me again. And, like, starts kind of groping her, and she's like, no, don't. And then,
kind of makes it seem like he's going to rape her, honestly.
Yeah. And so then, like, that ends up being kind of important later. But, interestingly, in the comics, Shane went crazy really, really quickly at the quarry, like, before they left the quarry, and Rick killed him. And so this whole thing where, like, it's this kind of ongoing, like, not really a love triangle, but kind of, like, between Rick and Laurie and Shane keeps going on, like, much, much longer. And there was no CDC in the comics, which I think the CDC storyline, I mean, it doesn't go on for that long. I guess it's really just this one episode that they're actually there.
Right.
But I think it was kind of a mistake, but just kind of pointless.
So I think they think that it's going to be important because then it kind of gives up on hope of finding a cure. And this is when they, like, show the MRI of the brain, and it shows, like, what part of the brain is, like, activated with, like, when you're a walker. So it's supposed to be like, oh, you have to kill that part of the brain, right?
I mean, yeah, possibly, yeah. I mean, it gives some background or, like, some exposition, like, that in that, like, the researchers, I mean, wow, they must be deeply incompetent because they have absolutely no idea what causes the disease. Like, he's like, it could be fungal, it could be microbial, it could be viral, it could be parasitic, it could be this, it could be that,
right.
It could be this, it could be magic, it could be, you know, like, it's like, okay, I don't even know how that's possible. Like, how have you not narrowed this down a little bit? That's kind of insane.
And if he's, like, he said that his wife is, like, the Einstein of the CDC. And his wife most recently died, right? Because that was the brain tissue that he was
Right.
using in the episode before. So, like, she hasn't been gone that long. So, if the apocalypse has been happening for, I feel, maybe I'm wrong, I feel like 4 weeks or so
I
now.
think that's, yeah.
Then, like, they probably should have come up with something. Even if it's not, like, we're absolutely positive about this, they should have some pretty good ideas of, like, what's causing it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's outrageous that he hasn't, like, they haven't figured out anything. Yeah, and so the end with the... So he shows the characters... Oh, I think... Because, like, after they get drunk, and then they have hangovers the next day.
Yeah.
And then, is it T-Dog? Or somebody's, like, making them eggs to, like...
Yeah.
And then, like, I thought it was kind of weird, because, like... Oh, then, like, I think it's Andrea says to Bruce Jenner, like, we're not here for the eggs. And then, like, a really bitchy, like, and it's like, well, okay, you guys were going nuts over the food and the wine and the, you know, and, like, it's just like, okay. And so then, like, they want the cure. And then...
Was it Andrea or was it Dale? I mean, I guess it doesn't
No, I
really
think it was
matter,
Andrea.
but okay.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess she's, you know, she's traumatized now.
And more.
And unhappy. But... So, like, okay, so then he shows them this MRI enhanced image of his wife's brain as she dies and then gets reanimated. And it shows that only, like, the basal regions of the brain are activated when a walker reanimates. Okay, so you would have to go for the brainstem when putting one down. Except that's not reflected throughout essentially the entire show.
Yeah.
They like, it would have been better if they had been consistent about that you had to direct your attacks towards the base of the brain, because that would have made it slightly more difficult to eliminate them.
Yeah, because a lot of the time they just, like, it's just like an axe or whatever, like, in their forehead,
it's like
in the
anything.
skull. Like,
yeah, it's like essentially any brain
near the
injury,
head,
just
near,
bam,
yeah.
you know? Yeah, like, they just stick, like, short knives into the top of the head.
Yeah.
That
like,
really,
right
that
above the
shouldn't
ear,
shouldn't
like,
reach
but...
deeply enough into the brain.
No.
Yeah, no, it's, and, like, that would make it, they would have to be a little bit more, they'd have to put a little bit more effort into eliminating them if they actually had to go for the brainstem.
Yeah.
Like, that would make them a bit more dangerous, and they really should have done that, but for whatever reason, they were just like, nah, it's, you know, whatever, just, like, stab them anywhere, and that's fine, with anything, you know, or just, like, hit them with, because, I mean, like, a sufficiently hard blow from a blunt object would damage them enough, but often I feel like they don't really hit them hard enough with blunt objects, and it's like, well, that's it. That's
We're
fine.
good.
You know, yeah, like, they're really very easy to destroy. Yeah, so that would have been nice if they had been more consistent. And they do show, yeah, so like you said, there's some exposition about the virus. Well, I mean, they don't even know if it's a virus, but...
Well, and at the end, like, Bruce Jenner whispers something in Rick's ear, but as the audience, you don't know what that is yet. Like, what he whispers.
And it takes a full season until the audience...
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not until the season 2 finale that he actually tells them.
Oh, is that really how long it is? I didn't know that. Okay.
It's like, I don't know, maybe the second to last thing he said, like,
God.
lines spoken in the season. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's... And so I don't know if that was the intention, you know, for it to be, like, drawn out that much. Yeah. But, yeah. And so then they're like, okay, so then... some of them say, yeah, let's just stay here and be blown up. It doesn't matter, you know. And then they yell at Bruce Jenner for a while and beg, and then eventually he says, okay, well, I can't open up the exterior, but I'll let you flee out there, and, you know, I'll open the doors I can.
Right.
So then Jackie and Andrea, like, say they're gonna stay there and be blown up, and then, yeah, like you said, Dale says, "Well, I'm gonna stay here too, Andrea, and
Right,
well,
and guilts
whatever
her
you
into
decide to
it,
do,
right.
like,
Your fate, or
God,
our fate
he's
is
so
in your
annoying."
hands.
Yeah. And then she's like, "Oh, fine." And so then she tries to leave. Although the other characters get out first because conveniently Rick had that grenade that he took from the soldier Walker in the tank in episode 2.
It was convenient.
Yeah, because like I think he forgot about that. Like I don't think because I think who was it? Carol? But like somebody's like, "I was washing your clothes and I
Oh,
found this," and
yeah.
then hands it to him.
Yeah.
And like I think he forgot that he had
Yeah,
that.
no, I think you're right.
Which I mean is not unreasonable. Like lots of other things were happening, but it's kind of funny because it's like, oh right, oh man, that's convenient that we have this. Like, and so then he puts it next to the window and pulls the pin, and then he's like, "Oh shit," and like runs away and dives, and it like I think the fuse on that thing was too short because that's really unsafe. I think that was a
Yeah.
bit ridiculous. It blows up like as he's leaping away in midair.
Yeah.
And it just like conveniently, I mean, really that shouldn't have worked. That grenade shouldn't have been able to just perfectly break the reinforced glass like that, but it does. And so then they manage to get out, and then Andrea and Dale come out like a few minutes
Right,
after.
and they're like, dive, like,
And
get
they're really
down.
being kind of like lazy about it. They're not
Oh my
like
gosh.
they should be like hurling themselves through the window.
No, Andrea like takes her time and then like
like,
gets down and like
gingerly
looks
step
looks
down
around
and-
for a moment, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, we have to run now," and they have like 6 seconds left or something like that at this point.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a very yeah. And then Jackie and Bruce Jenner hold hands and look at each other as the clock's counting down. And then the other characters get to their cars,
Right.
and then the building blows up. And then the song, I think it's Bob Dylan. I'm not sure though, but it's like, "If life wasn't a crooked road, if the night wasn't a crooked trail." And then essentially the series ends as the CDC burns.
Not the series, just the season.
Oh, you're right. Season. So, the secondary characters in season 1, like Morales and Jackie and Jim, and so I mean, sort of T-Dog. Like he's not like one of the primary characters, but he's much more important in the first season than he
Yeah.
is in the second and third seasons. They just sort of like you wondered whether. When Morales and his family leave.
If like that was
yeah.
intentional, because like much later in the season, series, Morales comes back.
It's like
and
season 8.
Yeah, and so I was wondering if that was like an intentional, like, did they have them leave so later they could use him even if they didn't know exactly what they were going to use him for, or like what the process was there. But I think you're right that they were just like trying to phase out the secondary characters because they leave. And you caught a really good point. That's where Sophia gets her doll from.
Yeah. It's like
The
one
little
of
girls in that
Morales'
family,
daughter.
yeah.
It's like, here's this doll.
Right.
Yeah, and then
And
that's
then-
the one she has going forward.
And then Jim dies, or I mean, we assume he dies. I mean,
Right.
it's never confirmed, I guess.
He's gonna get his own spin-off where it turns out like the helicopter people cured him or something. Yeah.
And then Jackie decides to stay at the CDC and get exploded. So there's basically all of our secondary characters, our minor characters.
Yeah.
Merle's off. We don't know what Merle's doing. And he ends up becoming really important. But at that point, he was just a secondary character.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they just said, well, we don't really have any interest in doing anything with these secondary characters right now. So let's just cull them. And it's like, well, I think they were like, well, it makes sense that somebody would just split off when they leave the quarry. So they're like, let's, have Morales' family leave.
That gets rid of like four or
Mm-hmm.
5 characters that we don't have to think about and we don't have to write for. And they do keep T-Dog, but he doesn't like...
Yeah.
I mean, after this season, he kind of takes a secondary
just sort of
seat.
there.
Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't do a whole lot.
He doesn't really have that much material. Yeah, and in the first season, he was like he had a fair number of lines, and he
right, like
know,
with Merle and
yeah.
the handcuff on the roof and everything. Like he was
yeah.
pretty important.
He was decently important in the first season, and then they just kind of ignore him starting with the second season. Yeah. But yeah, they just decided to kind of thin the herd a bit and get rid of some of the second or all of the secondary characters, really.
And that wraps up season 1.